welcome to our podcast. My name is Sister Stacy, and this is Broken for God's Glory Ministries. We meet here every Tuesday evening to discuss topics that the Christian can relate to. Thank you all for listening week after week, and I pray that God will continue to keep you all throughout this pandemic. Feel free to check out some of our previous podcasts, as there may just be something there for you. In this week's episode, we want to look at coping with grief, especially during the pandemic. As at 5:17 a.m. on Tuesday, May 26, 2020, the novel coronavirus has taken 348,255 lives. Please note that some families have lost more than one member to this virus. And while we know that the plethora of deaths now are related to the pandemic, many families are still grieving over the loss of their loved ones who have died from other complications, other reasons. And so today I'm dedicating this episode to those that are grieving. I know that only God can bring you peace and comfort during this season. But I want you to know that even in those moments when you feel overwhelmed, that you are not alone and you are never alone. We'll start today by looking at the 5 stages of grief. The information presented here is taken from grief.org. The first stage is denial. In this stage, the world becomes meaningless and overwhelming. Life makes no sense. We're in a state of shock and denial. We go numb. We wonder, how can we go on? If we can go on, why should we go on? We try to find a simple way to make it through each day. Denial and shock help us to cope and make survival possible. Denial helps us to pace our feelings of grief. It is nature's way of letting in only what we can handle. As you accept the reality of the loss of a loved one and start to ask yourself questions, you are unknowingly beginning the healing process. You are becoming stronger and the denial is beginning to fade. But as you proceed, all the feelings you were denying will begin to resurface. The second stage is anger. Anger is a necessary stage of the healing process. Be willing to feel your anger, even though it may seem endless. The more you truly feel it, the more it will begin to dissipate, and the more you will heal. There are many other emotions under the anger that you will get to in time, but anger is the emotion that we are most used to managing. The truth is that anger has no limits. It can be extended not only to your friends, your family, yourself, and your loved one that has passed, but also to God. You may ask, where is God in all of this? Underneath anger is pain, your pain. It is natural to feel deserted and abandoned. Anger is strength, and it may be an anchor giving temporary structure to the nothingness of the lost. The anger is just another indication of the intensity of your love. The third stage is bargaining. Before bargaining, it seems like you'll do anything if your loved one would be spared. Please God, you bargain. After a loss, bargaining may take the form of a temporary truce. We become lost in a maze of if only, what if statements. We want life to return to what it was. We want our loved one restored. The if onlys cause us to find fault in ourselves, and we think we could have done things differently. We may even bargain with the pain. We will do anything not to feel the pain of this loss. We remain in the past, trying to negotiate our way out of the hurt. The fourth is depression. After bargaining, our attention moves squarely into the present. Empty feelings present themselves, and grief enters our lives on a deeper level, deeper than we ever imagined. This depressive stage feels as though it will last forever. It is important to understand that depression is not a sign of mental illness. It is an appropriate response to a great loss. Depression after a loss is too often seen as unnatural. a state to be fixed, something to snap out of. The first question to ask yourself is whether or not the situation you're in is actually depressing. The loss of a loved one is very depressing. It's a very depressing situation. The depression is a normal and appropriate response. To not experience depression after a loved one dies would be unusual. When a loss finally settles in your soul, the realization that your loved one didn't get better this time and is not coming back is understandably depressing. The final one is acceptance. Acceptance is often confused with the notion of being alright or okay. But what has happened? This is not the case. Most people don't ever feel okay or alright about the loss of a loved one. This stage is about accepting the reality that our loved one is physically gone and recognizing that this new reality is the permanent reality. We will never like this reality or make it okay, but eventually we accept it. We learn to live with it. It is the new norm with which we must learn to live. We must try to live in a world where our loved one is missing. Finding acceptance may just be having more good days than bad days. We begin to live again. But we cannot do this until we have given grief its time. And at this juncture, I would like to introduce some practical ways in which we can cope with grief. The information written below is from Dr. Jacqueline E. Campbell, a family physician, university lecturer, and a pharmacologist. She's a Jamaican, and I figured someone closer to home would be more relevant. The information was written after she lost her mom, and credits must be given to the Jamaica Observer for publishing this information. The first one is to take care of yourself. Try to eat and get some sleep. Also try to get some exercise. Do not use drug or alcohol to numb the pain. You might think that alcohol and drugs will make you feel better, but any relief will only be temporary and you will feel much worse in the long run. The second is to seek support. As social beings, we need help from others to get through loss. Support is the single most important factor in healing from the loss of a loved one. Wherever the support comes from, accept it. Do not grieve alone. Support comes from family, friends, church, counselors, even strangers. Some people shrug at the thought of grief counseling. However, support groups and counseling can speed up the healing process. Do not be afraid to talk about your feelings. Understandably, some people may become uncomfortable with your displays of emotion or your need to talk about the person who died. That is fine. Do not become upset. Just gently tell them that this is how you grieve. This is a part of your healing process. Talking about it helps you to heal. The third is do not allow others to tell you how to feel. There is no right or wrong way to grieve. Your grief is your own. No one can tell you when it's time to move on. It is quite normal to be angry at the person who died. It is normal to cry. Nothing is wrong with crying. And there's also nothing wrong with laughing. The fourth is express your feelings in a creative way. Write about your loved one in a journal. Take up a new hobby. Or revisit an old one. This will help you to focus elsewhere, even if it's only for a short period of time. As Christians, during seasons of sadness and mourning, we are reminded of the blessed hope that we will see our loved ones again. Paul reminds us in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 13 and 14, that he would not have us ignorant concerning those which are asleep, that we sorrow not, even as others which have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them which sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. We can also rest assured that God cares and understands the pain that we feel, and his desire is to comfort us. Revelation 21 verse 4 reminds us that God shall wipe away all tears from our eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain. For the former things are passed away. As you go through your season of mourning, I pray that the hand of God will continue to rest upon you, and He will bring comfort to your home. He will bring comfort to your lives. He will bring comfort to your heart and peace to your minds. As you go through this season, remember that you are not alone, and you are never alone, because God is with you. Until next week, God bless you and keep safe. Remember, you can email me at stacynmwilson@gmail.com. See you again on Sunday morning.